Okay, so we are officially at that point where we're now done with the whole Onslaught cross. So really, we are officially done with the whole idea of the Onslaught event. So we're now going on to a brand new playlist. So as you all know, on my main YouTube page, I put down different playlists for different X-Men events. So Mutant Massacre, X-Men Inferno, and the list goes on and on. And so now we can sit down and begin to work our way up to Operation Zero Tolerance. That is the next big crossover for the X-Men that we have to cover. So of course that means we got a lot of work to do. Now, here's the thing, because when it comes to our coverage, they may or may not be some books we're not going to be able to cover because those books have not been put on Marvel Unlimited or even like Amazon Comixology either. So unfortunately, I can't really sit down and review those storylines. Like for example, when it comes to X Factor, we are technically done until Marvel says, hey, here's the rest of volume 1 of X Factor. And then once that happens, we'll then be able to continue. But either way, let's go ahead and begin our coverage over this brand new era for the X-Men team. Really, to kick off the brand new era, we're going to pick up with Excalibur. You see, when it comes to Excalibur, originally, Excalibur was not really an X book. It was, but at the same time, it wasn't. Because when it came to different X-Men crossovers, Excalibur was over there by itself. You didn't see Excalibur cross over the X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force in all those early X-Men events. And really, once you had Chris Claremont leave and a few other people after him leave, you begin to see Excalibur become an actual X book. And when that happened, you saw Excalibur being able to cross over with the other X teams, the X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor, and the list goes on. For example, Fatal Attractions. For me, that was Excalibur finally being able to take part in X-Men events with the rest of the X teams. Now, with all that being said, when it came to Onslaught, Excalibur technically did have a chapter, but they weren't really involved in the main event. For example, when it came to Onslaught, when he was wrecking New York, you saw the X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four, X-Force was trying to help out where they could. Same thing goes for X-Factor. Those X teams right there were really being affected by Onslaught. Now, for Excalibur, they weren't. Matter of fact, their whole entire chapter in Onslaught was them being in London fighting against a Hellfire Club branch that was placed in London, who was trying to take over Great Britain by using the power of some kind of demon. And so while you had Excalibur dealing with that, they had no idea what was happening back in New York when it came to Charles Xavier and Onslaught and just wrecking New York, and of course the heroes as well. Now, here's the problem though, because when it came to Excalibur's chapter in the whole entire crossover, Onslaught did appear for 2 pages, and that was really it. We were kind of left to believe that originally Excalibur was going to take part in the crossover, but of course they did not. Now, it wasn't like Excalibur was completely left off the board, because they did have one major thing in their chapter that did help our heroes defeat Onslaught: the whole idea of the Xavier Protocol. Now, the Xavier Protocol was basically Xavier saying if something happens to him or the X-Men, and they have to use the protocols as the way to take down him or the X-Men, he had plans for every single member of the X-Men, or backup plans just in case the X-Men or him had officially disappeared. And so when it came to Cyclops and Jean Grey, they came over, got the plans, went back to New York to fight against Onslaught. Now, while they did that, Excalibur was in London fighting against, the Hellfire Club. And so only Moira McTaggart truly knows what exactly going on when it comes to Charles Xavier and Onslaught. And so we see her in that room right now, and the protocol plan says if anything happens to Charles Xavier, all the information he has on the mutant race and genetics, it goes over to Moira McTaggart. And that's officially it. Now, you do have Warwick Campbell inform Moira McTaggart that Excalibur has now come home. Now, as soon as they do arrive back home after their mission in London, it's her now telling them like, hey, listen, so something happened back in New York. Something happened when it came to Charles Xavier and, of course, the whole idea of Onslaught. Now, of course, when you do have Moira McTaggart tell Excalibur, like, what's going on back in New York, they want to go and help out, but she says no. And the reason why, because, well, Excalibur just got done with a mission in London fighting against the Hellfire Club. Some of them need some medical attention. And so she says, no, you guys are exhausted. The American teams are basically handling the situation. Now, she does have another reason why. She does not want Excalibur to get involved. And so when it comes to this issue, Excalibur issue number 101, it does kind of pick up before you have the Avengers and Fantastic Four officially disappear. And so right now for our heroes, they're just watching the news and realizing that things had popped off in New York. The Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, they're all fighting right now against Onslaught. And they now know, for Excalibur, they now know that it's Charles Xavier who's Onslaught at the moment. But for our heroes, trying to figure out like, how can they get there to help out the other heroes? Most of their aircrafts have been officially wrecked because the last few missions this team has been on. But on top of that, like, they realized the whole EMP was released in New York. So of course, it's kind of like, okay, listen, even if we do fly over there, for Onslaught, he'll know it's us because EMP went off in that area. There's no way anybody should be in the air. And so for Excalibur, unfortunately, they have been sidelined when it came to this event. And also, this is Warren Ellis kind of beginning the process of moving away from Black Air, it seems like, because the last storyline we did for Excalibur, it was them being able to bring down the Hellfire Club, but also Black Air as well. Now, you want to know more about Black Air? Go ahead and watch my last video for Excalibur, which is issue number 100. But either way, for our heroes, they're now getting their medical attention they needed because some folks did get shot or badly injured on that last mission. And so this kind of leads into a few pages where you see our characters trying to adjust to the idea that they're not really able to go over to America to help out the rest of the X teams. Like, for example, when it comes to Kitty Pryde and Colossus, these two right here, they kind of feel bad about the fact that they're not really able to help out their old friends, especially for Colossus, because before he had officially left the X-Men, he did say some harsh things towards Charles Xavier before he had joined Magneto's side. And so for Colossus, he kind of hates the idea that his last words to Charles Xavier are just horrible things he said to Charles. Now, let's not forget, when it came to Colossus, he came over to Muir Island to win Kitty Pryde's heart back, but of course she had already moved on to Pete Wisdom. And so for Colossus, he attacked her new boyfriend. And of course, you had Kitty and Kurt, Nightcrawler, explain to him like how truthfully that was messed up. And so you had Colossus realize he has to let Kitty Pryde go because she no longer is his girlfriend. And so you now have the two characters trying to rebuild their bond with one another, but more like friends. Now, earlier, I did mention the fact that when it came to Black Air, they're officially gone for the time being. And so now they're trying to bring back the WHO organization in the Great Britain government. And let me explain. You see, when it came to WHO, they're better known as the Weird Happening Organization. They would go around the world to investigate weird things happening across the world. But thanks to the Hellfire Club and, of course, the UK system, they kind of pushed WHO out of the government plans and brought in Black Air to replace the WHO organization. But of course, Black Air was corrupt thanks to the Hellfire Club. And so thanks to Excalibur, Black Air is officially off the books now. Well, it seems like it. But you have right now Alistair Stewart, who was in charge of WHO, getting a call where it says like, hey, listen, right now, we're trying to bring back WHO, but also merge WHO with Black Air. But they want Alistair Stewart in charge of the entire organization. And so it's him right now trying to recruit Warwick Campbell. Now, for Warwick Campbell, he was just helping out Moira McTaggart to find a cure for the legacy virus. But then he figured out that in the future, he'll become a mutant hunter who would go after mutants and basically, well, kill them. And so for him, he's scared of his future because he does not want to become that person he saw in that future. And so he's kind of hoping that with him now going with Alistair Stewart to be in charge of the whole like brand new version of Who organization, he's kind of hoping that maybe, just maybe, his future might change. Now we also get a page where it's Nightcrawler and also Amanda trying to rebuild their bond with one another, because with these two characters, they did grow up together as brother and sister, but Nightcrawler was adopted by Amanda's mother, who of course turned evil in our last video. Matter of fact, again, go check it out. And so for Nightcrawler, he's kind of like, why in the world did you not tell me that our mother had the soul sword? And for Amanda, she kind of felt like it was something she had to handle on her own. Either way, it's the two characters right now trying to rebuild their bond with one another again. Now, something else we do have to talk about will be the whole idea of Captain Britain. You see, there was a point in time where he was just lost in time. And so with him being lost in time, of course, he saw the future of things. And so in one of his futures he saw, it was called Days of Yet to Come. It was a storyline we already covered in one of our earlier videos for Excalibur. But in that video, 15 years in the future, things had popped off when it came to Excalibur trying their best to bring down Black Air. But for Captain Britain, Brian Braddock, he believes that future no longer exists. And the reason why, because of Pete Wisdom. Because Pete had joined Excalibur and had begun to date Kitty Pryde, things came out differently. They had attacked Black Air 15 years earlier, but also this time they had survived. In that earlier storyline, in that far future, they had died. And so for Captain Britain, he's saying, listen, to protect our future, you have to continue to be with Kitty Pryde, but you also have to tell Kitty Pryde that you basically love her. And so to close on this one issue right here, for Excalibur, they're watching the news again, and they're seeing that things are still popping off in New York. And so once again, for Excalibur, they want to get involved. They want to help out so badly. But the thing is, you have Moira McTaggart say no. And the reason why, because she's kind of like, listen, there's not just mutants in New York. You have mutants all over the world. But on top of that, if you guys go out there and get killed with the rest of the X-teams, then who in the world is going to be able to help out the mutant race across the world? Who will be able to carry out Charles Xavier's dream? And so it's basically her kind of making them realize what they have to do here. Like, unfortunately, you guys can't go. It's no longer the fact that you guys got injured in your last mission. It's the idea that somebody has to stay behind to be able to carry on Charles Xavier's dream. And so when we dive into issue number 102, we are basically establishing now this issue takes place after the ending result of the Onslaught crossover, where it's basically, you know, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, they're officially gone. Now, as we all know, they're not dead or anything. They're just right now in the Heroes Reborn universe. And so it's Nightcrawler and Moira McTaggart finding out like, okay, so that's why I told you guys to not go, because now it's up to you and possibly like a few other teams in the world to protect the rest of the world when it comes to different types of threats. But now we jump over to Kitty Pryde and also Pete Wisdom. Now, for these two characters, it's them right now just, you know, having lunch with one another. But while doing that, it's really more of Pete trying to tell us that for Excalibur, they're getting a lot of love at the moment from the UK. And the reason why, because what happened in London with the whole demon situation. And so for Pete Wisdom, he's kind of loving the fact that for Excalibur, they're not going to be targeted. They're not going to be chased down by random humans who possibly hate them because they are mutants. Now, for Kitty Pryde, she wants to make sure that they're not really different from the rest of the X-teams, to basically be a role model. But it's Pete saying like, look at the difference between our team and that team over there. When it comes to the X-Men, usually they cause chaos in that area, destruction in that area. for Excalibur, we are a tad bit different. But look at the bigger picture here. If people truly love us, then most likely they're going to leave us alone. And with them leaving us alone, that means we are then able to get more work done. Now, this leads into a conversation between Captain Britain and also Megan, where is Captain Britain thinking back to the time where him and Steve Rogers had fought alongside with one another, with one being, of course, Captain America and the other one being Captain Britain, is him trying to show us like these two captains are basically different from one another. And not because they're power set, because how the public looks at them. You see, for America, they love their Steve Rogers. They'll do anything for them. But for the UK, they're not really showing that much love to Brian Braddock like America does for Steve Rogers. And for Brian, kind of feels like that the UK people don't really have the ability to show that kind of love over to their heroes. But it's Bacon saying like, you don't know that because look at the Americans. They also hate the mutants so much because they're just there. But sometimes they actually fear the mutant race. You know, they have a whole lot of love, but they also have a whole lot of hate as well. And so it's her saying like, you don't know, like maybe UK could possibly love you more like how they love Steve Rogers down the road. Now, for a brief moment, we do see that you right now have all the different mutant prisoners being transported away from your island. So, of course, right now we see Spore being taken away, where, of course, he should have been gone a long time ago. But it's the British government kind of making sure that things go very smoothly for our Excalibur team and their prisoners leaving their island. Now we do shift over to Colossus, Wolfbane, and also Amanda. Now for Amanda, it's her wanting to make sure like her mom is still okay, but also kind of like what her mom could possibly up to down the road, because her mom was Margali, and she did play a very major role in the last storyline for Excalibur, fighting in London. I have no idea why I just said playing, but either way, for our heroes, they want to see how she's doing or like, what could she be possibly up to? Except when they go to her home, they don't find her there. But when they do bust the door down, they do hear this evil laughter coming from somewhere. And so for our three heroes, they know they have to dip the heck out of there. Now, this kind of leads into Kitty Pryde and also Pete Wisdom leaving the restaurant they were at earlier. Now, while they're leaving, out of nowhere, they're then attacked by a group of guys who supposedly work for the American government. And here's the reason why. Because these guys right now, they're here to say, like, you are not welcome back in America at all. Because the people of America, they know that the whole event of Onslaught was because of a mutant. They don't know who, but they do know, like, it was a fault of a mutant. And so right now, you had these guys saying, like, listen, you are not welcome in America at all. The entire Excalibur team. But also, we're going to try our best to convince the UK to make sure they also hate on you guys as well. And it's kind of like, dang, you guys are for real. Now, you do have Pete and also Kitty Pryde being able to get back in time to hand the guy over to Moira Taggart and make her and the guards believe that he's also a prisoner that needs to be transported as well. But this leads into the ending of this issue where it's kind of like, okay, cool. It's now time for us to begin a new beginning for Excalibur once again and head over into the next crossover. And the reason why I'm saying that because the last few pages is just more of Moira Taggart confirming like, yes, those guys did work for the American government, but it was not an official statement. But at the same time, it could be because right now, the people of America do not like mutants at all across the board, thanks to Onslaught. But either way, it's also Pete saying like, listen, we all heard what happened. The Avengers are gone. Fantastic Four are gone. Charles was arrested. But the thing is, we got to move on. We have our own lives here that we have to carry forward. And so just like that, it truly explains where was Excalibur when he came to the big event. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.